I'm Chef Frank, this is Protocooks, and today we're making my childhood favorite shrimp cocktail. A lot of times I talk about things from my childhood and my food memories, and shrimp cocktail happens to be one of them. So we had this family we were friends with, the Hembrecks, and every maybe 6 months, we would end up going to a restaurant called Beefsteak Charlie's together. Most of our meals were eaten at home, so it was always a special occasion when we got to go out, and Beefsteak Charlie's was one of those places, and shrimp cocktail happened to be like a special occasion food. And if you didn't know about this restaurant, it used to be a place you can get all you can drink beer, wine, and sangria, and they had an unlimited salad bar where there was shrimp cocktail. Me and my sister and Doug and Debbie used to go nuts on the shrimp cocktail, and then we started playing with them, and we'd pretend we were operating on them. So shrimp cocktail is not only something I've always enjoyed as food, but we've always had fun playing with it as well. I feel like there's a lot of things in my life that come from food memories, you know, like my grandmother and growing up being in a food-centric family. I make it once in a while. I don't go crazy with it here nowadays, but I always enjoy it and I want to share it with you. For my shrimp cocktail, this is what you're going to need: ketchup, prepared horseradish, hot sauce, Worcestershire sauce, lemon, bay leaf, shrimp, salt and pepper. Before we start cooking, I want to talk about a few of the ingredients. The first one being horseradish. I am a fan of Gold's. It's my gold standard. For the most part, this is what we used most of my life. My dad used it when we made cocktail sauce or when we make Bloody Marys, that's what we used. But just find a good one that you like. Find one that's nice and spicy. I like when it's a little on the hot side and it gives you kind of that that nose wasabi feel. That's what I like. So find a horseradish that you like. Another ingredient I want to talk about is Worcestershire sauce. I don't have any in the house, so I'm using mushroom ketchup. And mushroom ketchup is a close cousin. It's just vegetarian. It doesn't have any fish in it. I like to use Worcestershire sauce, mushroom ketchup, or even fish sauce in my cocktail sauce. It gives it a nice kind of background, that umami flavor. Another ingredient I want to talk about is fresh citrus, and in this case, it's lemons. Buy fresh citrus. Don't buy the stuff in the jar or the bottle. You just can't replicate the flavor of this in something that's prepackaged. I know that some people might not have access to them, but this is always going to be best. The last ingredient I want to talk about is the star of the show. It's the shrimp. And there's a lot of things I want to talk to you guys about when it comes to shrimp. The first one being is the myth of fresh shrimp. A lot of times, even today, I went to the supermarket to buy shrimp, and on the tag it said fresh shrimp. And I know for a fact that they weren't fresh. They were just defrosted from a frozen block. It's called refreshed. A lot of times with squid, scallops, shrimp, the supermarket will buy it frozen and defrost it and call it fresh, and it's the biggest scam out there. So when I buy my shrimp, I'm always buying it frozen in the bag or frozen in the block and defrosting it myself, because the stores charge you to defrost the shrimp. Most shrimp commercially produced are frozen on the boat before they even get to the market. Unless you live in a coastal area that's known for shrimping, you're probably not getting fresh shrimp. I know in the Northeast where I live, we do get some fresh shrimp once in a while, but they're extremely, extremely rare. Now, if you have a different experience, I'd love to hear about it. Put it in the comments down below. The next thing I want to talk about is how to choose the size of your shrimp. And a lot of times this is really confusing for people. And I'm going to try and break it down the best I can and make it simple. In general, the larger the number of shrimp per pound, the smaller they are. Right? So if you do 40, 50 shrimp, that usually means it's 40 to 50 shrimp per pound, which makes them really small. If you do a U8, which means under 8 per pound, that means they're big shrimp. I'm dealing with something that's more of a 16-20, which means there's about 16 to 20 per pound. So that number is usually how many are in a pound, and that will give you the gauge of the size. The larger the number, the smaller the shrimp, the smaller the number, the larger the shrimp. So what I purchased is a 16-20, and that's kind of the size. So it's probably the size of average male pointer finger. Because I'm buying my shrimp frozen, I'm going to defrost them. And usually what I'll do is I'll either put them in a colander and let cold water run over them. Don't use hot water. Use cold water and let cold water run over them until they're defrosted. That's if you need them quickly. Or you can put them in a colander with a bowl under them in the fridge overnight or maybe a day and a half, and they'll defrost. Don't put these on the counter and don't put them under hot water to defrost them. So apart from the size, there's a lot of other ways to buy shrimp. You can buy them cooked. I never buy them cooked. Peeled and deveined. with the shell on, with the shell off. For the most part, you're not gonna find them with the veins in them frozen anymore. You will find those in like outlet stores like Costco and maybe your local Asian market, but for the most part, when you go to the supermarket, you're gonna find them like this. They're gonna have the vein out, the shell on, and they're called easy peel. And that's what we have today. So I'm gonna show you how to peel the shrimp today and get them ready for the cocktail. So let's get our poaching liquid ready, and we usually call this a court bouillon. This is a very simple version of a court bouillon, and that's what you use in French cooking to cook seafood in. So I want the shrimp to pick up some flavor or be flavored by this water. I'm gonna keep it simple, but I also want to season my shrimp. So I'm gonna hit it with some bay leaf. I'm gonna hit it with a fair amount of salt. Now I want my water to be salty, but not like sea salt. I want it to be salty enough so that some of that seasoning gets into the shrimp. And then I want to add some lemon. I'm gonna use one giant lemon. And not only am I gonna squeeze it, I'm gonna drop it in there as well. I'm gonna put this on the stove behind me and bring it to a boil. All right, now I wanna just taste this to make sure that it has some flavor. So I'm gonna give it a little bit of a stir. I have my handy dandy Star Wars tasting spoon. And I know this probably isn't delicious, but I wanna taste it to make sure it's gonna season my shrimp. It's good. It's not overpowering. It has some seasoning to it. It has some lemon to it. So I think we're ready. I'm gonna put it back on the stove and get the shrimp ready. Now you could buy your shrimp peeled and deveined already, but I do like these easy peel for one reason. You get the shells, and I save the shells. I get a Ziploc bag, I fold it inside out, and then I get those shells and I can make shrimp stock for my paellas, for anything seafood that I make. I save my shells and I make a stock out of it. And the easy peel ones don't have the vein, so all you really have to do is pull off the shell. So this is how we're gonna do it. I have my shell bag, I have my finished bowl for my finished shrimp. And basically what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pull off these shells, put them in my bag, and leave the tail on. I want that little tail piece on because when you're having shrimp cocktail, you can bite into it. Now, there is a line down the belly of the shrimp. That is actually the circulatory system. That is not the vein. The vein that everyone talks about goes on the top of the shrimp, and that's actually the digestive system. So whenever you have a vein, don't eat that. The vein is actually digestive system, and that's shrimpy poop, and you don't want that. This is actually the circulatory system. Don't even try and take this out. It's a nightmare, and it's not necessary. So I'm getting those shells, and with the easy peel, you just gotta pinch them and pull the legs off, leave that little tail on, and they come off really easy. And you don't have to devein them. It's pretty awesome. It's not even more expensive. Like, this is the most reasonably priced shrimp I've ever bought. I got 2 pounds for like 11 bucks at the supermarket, right? So leave the tail on. That gives you a little handle when you are eating your shrimp cocktail. And then save the shells because they make a delicious stock. So just pinch them. You see how the shell just kind of comes right off. Leave the tail on, shells in there. Some people would say you cook them in the shell, they taste better. Definitely, the shell does give your shrimp a little flavor, but I like to do this dirty work ahead of time before I actually cook them. You'll see that the shrimp do vary in size depending on the bag you get. Sometimes it's 16, sometimes it's 20 per pound. So when I buy 16, 20, sometimes they're bigger, sometimes they're a little smaller, and that's all right. Basically, you just pinch the shell off, right? Just give it a little twist towards the tail and it pinches right off. All right, my court bouillon is at a simmer. Let's go cook these shrimp. So my water's simmering. I'm gonna take the shrimp. I'm gonna drop them all in. Give them a quick stir. They don't stay in the water long. I'm just looking for them to turn pink and go slightly opaque in the center, and then we can take them out. So you can see in the center, they're still kind of raw. I'm gonna let them sit until they start to go opaque, and then we can take them out. So these aren't completely cooked, but I'm gonna take them out. Let's go back over to the board and I'll show you what I'm looking for. All right, the shrimp aren't fully cooked, but I'm gonna take them out because they're gonna carry over cook. A lot of times you'll see people take the shrimp and put them into an ice bath. I don't like doing that because the ice bath is gonna wash off my seasoning. So what I like to do is put them onto a sheet tray and let them chill in the fridge until they are cooled all the way. They will carry over cook a little, but they won't be rubbery. I think I got them all. So now I can take these, Put them in one layer. I don't leave my lemons. Those can go back into the pot. Spread them out and chill them in the fridge. While our shrimp cools, let's make our cocktail sauce. And my cocktail sauce is really simple. I don't really go too crazy with it. It's ketchup. I, of course, use Heinz, just what I'm used to. A fair amount of horseradish. I like my horseradish. I like the fact that it's nice and strong. I want it to be a little bite, have a little bite to it, all right? I'm gonna use some hot sauce. I like Texas Pete. Believe it or not, I'm not a huge fan of Frank's, although it's delicious. Texas Pete to me just kind of hits a different note. Some of my mushroom ketchup or Worcestershire sauce. A nice large amount of cracked black pepper, so you get a little heat from the black pepper as well. And having this man kitchen pepper cannon is so good for grating pepper. I know people, friends and family that have bought it and they love it, right? Salt, always salt, and then some fresh lemon juice. Like I said earlier, use fresh lemon juice. Give it a good squeeze. Now when it comes to your food, you always want to taste. So I'm going to mix this up and give it a taste. Never use your fingers because your fingers always have something on them, whether it's sweat, whether it's lemon juice that you just squeezed, but you always want to give things a taste before you serve them. I always make my cocktail sauce a day ahead because I like the flavors to meld and come together. So let's give that a mix. I got my Star Wars tasting spoon. I don't know, I think it's pretty good. Maybe just a touch of salt, a little more hot sauce, and we're good. Ooh, we're good. You see, I just got choked up a little. So I'm gonna put this in the fridge while we wait for the shrimp, and then we can plate up. One of the other garnishes people usually serve with shrimp cocktail is lemon wedges, and I'm gonna show you how I do them to make them the most efficient lemon wedges you'll ever see. The stem end gets cut off flat, right? And then I'm gonna cut my lemon in half, making sure that I leave a little of that tip or the bottom. I then cut it into slices from the inside, right? So that now when you hold this, there's a finger spot for your finger, and then there's a spout for your lemon. Usually it'll drip down the lemon as you squeeze, so you can direct it. Instead of just kind of like spraying it everywhere, this setup lets you squeeze it lightly and it'll go down the lemon. Look, it goes a little everywhere, but if you squeeze it, you'll see that it flows down. Shrimp are cool, let's plate them up. I like to put them on a platter. Make sure you get those bay leaves out of there. You don't want people to eat bay leaves. Look at that. I like the abundance of this, you know. I don't know, for some reason, like abundance or, you know, a lot of something always kind of makes me happy. It's not like I was ever lacking as a child, but I don't know, it just makes me happy. Let me get rid of the tray and then we can finally taste. And now's my favorite time to taste. Let me get one of these babies, dip her in. The sauce has got some bite from the horseradish, the hot sauce, and the black pepper. The shrimp are really cooked well. Not overdone, not rubbery. They got some bite to them, but they still have that nice kind of softness to them. They're not like bouncy. I'm really happy. I'm really glad they came out this good. I would give myself a 10 out of 10. Good job, Frank. I hope you enjoyed this video. If it did, give us a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. We have merch in the description down below. We have a P.O. box down there as well. I want to thank my Patreon patrons for supporting us. Thank you so much. And that is my shrimp cocktail. I'm Chef Frank. This is Proto Cooks. Have a good one. That's just a little extra Frank knowledge, Karen. A little extra Frank. Okay, so let's just shut everything off for a sec.